In the prosperous kingdom of Abora, ruled by wise King Nana Kwaku, lived the most beloved family in all the land. Kwame the great healer could cure any disease with his blessed hands, while his wife Oma served as the kingdom's oracle, reading dreams and speaking with the ancestors. Their 12-year-old son Kunto showed signs of inheriting both parents' extraordinary gifts. Their riverside compound was always filled with grateful patients, eager students, and loving friends. Kwame had saved countless lives over 20 years of service, while Omo's wisdom guided the kingdom through difficult decisions. Young Kunto was already helping with both healing and spiritual matters, beloved by all who knew him, especially the king's daughter Okojua. They would play all day in Kwame's compound. Oma often teases them as husband and wife, but Kwame will always caution that it's too early to call them that. They are still children and have a long way to go. They are very fond of each other. Efai, the king's wife and Akojua's mother, would tell Oma each time she visits her hut, and I like their friendship. Kunto already have the heart of a healer and leader. I know he will one day become great like his father. My friend, the gods have favored you with a brave son, and you should be proud of him. Kwame was always proud of his son. He sees him as the next healer that will take over from him. He took his time every day to teach him something new about herbs and sickness. Despite Kunto's many questions, Kwame would listen with patience and respond with clarity. Kunto was his only child. The others before him died after delivery. He was his only hope of having someone to continue his lineage after his demise. He would always warn him about the task ahead and of his role as potential leader of their family and community. Remember, my son, Kwame would say as they walked in their medicinal gardens, our gifts belong to the people. We are servants of the community, blessed by the ancestors to heal and help. But their happiness bred deadly jealousy in Chief Ose, the king's brother, who had always resented being passed over for the throne. He watched the family's growing influence with bitter resentment, waiting for his chance to destroy them. When a strange cattle plague struck the eastern provinces, killing livestock in ways no one had ever seen, King Nana Kwaku immediately summoned Kwame to investigate. The disease was unlike anything the master healer had encountered. Animals foamed at the mouth, stumbled blindly, and died in agony while neighboring herds remained completely healthy. For 2 weeks, Kwame and Kunto worked desperately to understand the plague, trying every remedy and cure they knew. But nothing worked. The disease followed no natural pattern, striking some herds while sparing others, responding to no traditional treatments. I'm failing them, son, Kwame confided as they returned to the capital empty-handed. For the first time in my life, I cannot heal the sick. Perhaps this is a test from the ancestors, Papa, young Kunto replied wisely. Sometimes challenges exist to teach us something we need to know. But their failure to cure the plague was exactly what Chief Ose had been waiting for. During Kwame's absence, Chief Ose had been busy planting seeds of doubt throughout the kingdom with poisonous whispers. Isn't it strange that this plague appeared so suddenly? Natural diseases don't behave this way. Notice how the herds near Kwame's compound remain healthy while others die. Almost as if someone knew which animals to protect. Who benefits from a crisis that makes the kingdom dependent on their expertise? Sometimes the person who offers to solve a problem is the one who created it. By the time Kwame returned, Ose's campaign of lies had taken root in the desperate minds of people facing starvation. They needed someone to blame for their suffering. In the royal council chamber, Chief Ose rose with practiced gravity to make his terrible accusation. Your Majesty, I believe this plague is not natural but a curse, dark magic created by those who claim they can solve it. I accuse Master Kwame and his family of using witchcraft to curse our kingdom's cattle, making themselves indispensable while our people suffer. The accusation struck the chamber like lightning. Kwame's face went pale as he realized the trap that had been set for him. That is both false and insane, Kwame protested with quiet dignity. Why would I create suffering I cannot cure? Why would I spend weeks desperately trying to solve a problem I had supposedly created? But fear had already poisoned reason. Other council members, influenced by Ose's whispers, began voicing their own suspicions. The fact that Kwami's own animals remained healthy was presented as evidence of guilt rather than good animal husbandry. Young Kunto, despite his age, was allowed to speak. "My lords, ask yourselves who benefits from these accusations. In 20 years, have you ever known my parents to put themselves before the people they serve?" But the boy's wisdom fell on ears deafened by fear and prejudice. King Nana Kwaku, torn between his love for the family and pressure from his desperate people, made a fateful decision. "I will give you 3 days to prove your innocence. End this plague completely, and you will be vindicated. Fail, and you will face judgment for witchcraft." It was an impossible test. No healer could cure an unknown disease in 3 days. But the crowd roared its approval, drunk on the promise of someone to blame. Kwame accepted the challenge with dignity, knowing he was doomed but hoping against hope that the ancestors might show him a way to save his family. The family worked without sleep for 3 days and nights, trying every remedy, every prayer, every desperate measure they could think of. Alma consulted the ancestors through dreams and visions while Kwame tested new combinations of medicines. Even Kunto contributed, gathering rare herbs and assisting with complex rituals. But the plague continued its relentless advance. If anything, more cattle died during those 3 days, as if the disease was mocking their efforts. On the final morning, as dawn broke on the day of judgment, Kwame sat in his ruined garden, surrounded by failed experiments and shattered hopes. "I have failed everyone who ever believed in us," he whispered to his wife. "No, my beloved," Omar replied, taking his hands. "We have been faithful to our calling. If the people cannot see that, the fault lies not with us but with those who have poisoned their hearts against us. Mama and Papa, what would now be our fate?" Kunto asked, already feeling some heat of loss and betrayal. "First they stop Okojoa from coming to our compound to play with me, now this stupid test." The crowd that gathered for the judgment was larger than any festival assembly, carrying stones and hatred in equal measure. They came ready to vent their frustration on the family they blamed for their suffering. Chief Osei stood before the throne like an avenging angel, his voice booming with false righteousness. 3 days have passed. The plague continues. More cattle have died. This is proof of their guilt. King Nana Kwaku, aged by the weight of his decision, rose to pronounce judgment. His eyes, when they met Kwame's, were full of regret but also terrible resolve. "Kwame, Oma, and Kunto," he began heavily, "you have failed to prove your innocence. The plague continues, and our people suffer. By the ancient laws of our kingdom, I pronounce you guilty of witchcraft and treason." Gasps echoed through the throne room, followed by cheers from some and shocked silence from others. However, the king continued, "In memory of your past service, I commute the sentence of death to permanent exile. You have until sunset to gather what you can carry and leave our kingdom forever. If you are ever seen within our borders again, death will follow swiftly." Akojoa and her mother Efai cried and tried to persuade her father to stop the pronunciation, but her pleas fell into deaf ears. The council of elders had already made their choice and the decision is final. Kwame the great healer must leave the land with his family. Young Kunto, standing between his parents, felt the terrible burning of injustice. As the crowd jeered and threw stones at their feet, he made a silent vow, "Someday, I will return. Someday, I will prove our innocence and claim justice for this betrayal." By sunset, the family that had once been the pride of Abora stood at the kingdom's borders with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Behind them lay everything they had ever known. Ahead lay only uncertainty and exile. The journey into the wilderness was the hardest thing they had ever endured. For 5 long years, they wandered from kingdom to kingdom, surviving through Kwame's healing skills and Omo's wisdom, but always as outsiders, always carrying the hidden shame of exile. Kunto grew from boy to man during those wandering years, becoming strong from constant travel and skilled in combat from learning to survive in dangerous lands. He trained with every warrior they encountered, learned multiple languages, and absorbed the customs of different peoples. But the fire of injustice never left his heart. Every night, he would whisper his vow to the stars, "I will return someday. I will clear our name and claim justice for what they did to us." His parents watched their son's transformation with mixed feelings, proud of his strength but worried about the hardness growing around his heart. "Revenge is poison, my son," Kwame warned. "It destroys the one who carries it. I don't seek revenge, Papa. I seek justice." But in his heart, Kunto wasn't always sure where justice ended and revenge began. In their 7th year of exile, traders brought horrifying news from Abora. A giant terrorizes the kingdom. Ashiva, the shadow demon, has made the sacred mountain his home. The traders spoke in hushed whispers of a monster 30 feet tall with eyes like burning coals and breath like poison wind. Every month, the giant demanded tribute: 50 cattle, 100 baskets of grain, and a young maiden as his slave. Villages that couldn't pay were destroyed completely. "He can uproot trees with his bare hands and throw boulders like pebbles," one trader whispered. "His rock can shatter stone, and no weapon can pierce his iron skin." "And King Nana Kwaku?" Amma asked, her heart heavy with foreboding. "A broken man who weeps daily for his kingdom's suffering. He speaks often of the great healer who was exiled, now believing those charges were false. But what good are regrets when the people are dying? I also heard that the giant had demanded for his daughter as his next reward, or they will feel his wrath in his next visit. Oh, that poor young girl, I hear she is very beautiful and elegant that the men in their community fear asking her out." Amma was very sad after hearing this news. Although she still feels the stench of hatred from her people and the king for his harsh decision, but this news of a giant slaughtering them was too much to comprehend. She was also sorry for Efa and her daughter and was worried about the consequence of releasing Akojo to that monster and what he would do to her. That evening, during their mealtime, Oma broke the news to Kwame and Kunto. Kwame was heartbroken because he would never wish such terrible fate for his people. He had been their healer for years and have been instrumental in saving many lives. He wished he could return to provide a solution to this problem but cannot because the king was very clear in his judgment that they should never return. That night, Kunto stood alone under the stars and felt destiny calling. The fire of injustice that had burned in his heart for 7 years was transforming into something greater: purpose. "I must return," he told his parents. "You cannot face such a monster," Kwame begged. "This giant is beyond mortal strength." "Then I will find immortal weapons," Kunto replied with quiet determination. "I will seek the aid of the ancestors themselves if necessary." "You are our only child," Kwame yelled. "Without you, this family does not have any hope of continuity. I did not train you up to hand you over to a monster that administered death to others. Did you not hear what your mother says about that monster? An entire village could not stop him. You don't stand a chance." "I know why you want to return," said Oma. "It's about Akojo, right? Especially now you know she is still single." "My son, not all relationships are meant to be, and you must not sacrifice yourself for a people that treated you like trash. They threw us out like we meant nothing to them after all our years of hard work to save many lives. Please, my son, do not leave us here. You are our only source of peace and hope." Against his parents' desperate pleas, Kunto set out alone for the kingdom that had cast him out. He could not bear the thought of seeing his beloved Akojo in another man's hand, let alone a monster. The thought of that always made him sick, and he would reassure himself that he will kill that monster at any cost. When Kunto crossed the borders of Abora after 7 years, he barely recognized his homeland. Prosperous villages were now empty ruins. Farmlands lay abandoned. The few survivors he encountered fled at his approach, mistaking him for another threat. "The giant burned our village last month," an old woman told him, her eyes hollow with loss. "He was angry that our tribute was 3 cattle short. Everyone died except me, and I wish I hadn't survived to see such horror." In the capital city of Kumosi, Kunto found King Nana Kwaku slumped on his throne, aged beyond his years, ruling over ghosts and shadows. Another brave fool who thinks he can succeed where hundreds have failed, the king asked wearily when Kunto approached, his face hidden by a traveling cloak. Perhaps, your majesty. But hope is all we have left. Hope. The king's laugh was bitter as dried leaves. This kingdom is beyond hope, young warrior. Ashiva will destroy us all eventually. Who are you, young man? Asked the king. I am someone you know and loved but betrayed. The king replied. Who is speaking of betrayal at such troubling times? Or do you not know what is happening in our land? Kunto walked closer to the king and kneeled before him. At first King Nana Kwaku thought he had seen a ghost. He was struck with fear because no one was around him at that time. He remembered the looks of his dear friend Kwame and felt he should be older by now after 7 years, but was wondering why this young man looks like him. Are you related to Kwame? Asked the king. Kunto, very calm and reserved, told the king, I am Kwame's only son and have come to slay the beast. Kwame, I know, only had one son. Kunto, are you him? Kunto nodded in agreement. I am, and I would like to battle with the beast terrorizing this land. The king was very shaken and sad. He asked Kunto to come close to him. He examined him very well and wept. Kunto told the king to keep his presence a secret because him and his parents were exiled from the community. He did not ask about Akoshua, because he was afraid the king would order his guards to slay him. He only asked for some food to regain his strength from his travel. That night Kunto was served very well by his beloved Akoshua. He was very excited when he saw her. He wished to speak to her and reveal himself but decided to keep that secret until after the fight with the beast. Her beauty was exactly what has been said about her. She glows even at night. The thought of rekindling their relationship and getting married to her always gives him joy, but he must first slay the monster who stands between them to win her back. What passed between them remained secret, but by morning, royal messengers carried a proclamation throughout the land. A champion has come forward to face Ashiva in single combat. 3 days hence, at the sacred mountain, this brave warrior will challenge the giant. The news spread like wildfire, creating a sensation throughout the kingdom. Some called the challenger a hero, others a madman. But in hiding places throughout the land, something stirred that had been dormant for 2 years: hope. Kunto had only 3 days to prepare for an impossible battle. He returned to his family's ruined compound by the river, now overgrown with vines and inhabited by wild animals, but still holding the presence of his ancestors. In his mother's old herb garden, he found her divination bones and his father's ceremonial knife, buried deep in the earth. When thrown, the bones revealed ancient patterns speaking of weapons that could only be forged in the heart of loss itself. Walking through the night at an abandoned forge, guided by ancestral spirits, Kunto created 3 weapons. A spear blessed with iron from the sacred mountain, a shield marked with protective symbols his mother had taught him, and most crucially, an arrow crafted from wood of the sacred baobab tree and tipped with his father's healing knife transformed into an instrument of justice. One chance, he murmured as he walked by firelight. These weapons will give me one chance to strike at evil's heart. As word of the coming battle spread, people began emerging from their hiding places. Old warriors shared knowledge of the giant's fighting patterns. Surviving villagers revealed his habits and weaknesses. Most surprisingly, Chief Ose himself approached Kunto on the eve of battle. The man who had orchestrated his family's exile was now gray-haired and bent with guilt. I know who you are, Ose said quietly, unable to meet the young man's eyes. I know what I did to your family, what lies I told, what destruction I caused. Kunto's hand went to his spear, 7 years of fury burning in his heart. I could kill you now. Yes. You should. I destroyed innocence because of jealousy and ambition. But if you can forgive me enough to accept help, I offer you the giant's greatest secret. I don't need any help from you, old man, says Kunto. Have you not caused us enough, or do you think I don't know what to do to my enemies? I am only ready to face the monster for now, but I promise to come back for you. Justice must be served. Ose was very sad. He broke down in tears and kept asking Kunto for forgiveness, although people around were wondering why. Ose was very emotional with the stranger who wants to fight their monster, but no one approached to know why. After much pleading with Kunto, Ose got his attention. In a hidden chamber, Ose revealed the truth: Ashiva is not truly a giant. He is Kwakudua, a sorcerer banished 15 years ago for practicing forbidden magic. The giant form is real but sustained by dark spells. His power comes from an amulet hidden within his chest. Strike there, and you can kill him. Why tell me this? Kunto asked. Because I destroyed one family through lies. Perhaps I can save a kingdom through truth. Kunto laughed. You are telling me this to make up for the past, but the ordeals my family went through will forever remain in my heart. Mark my words, I must have my revenge. Dawn broke blood-red over the sacred mountain as Kunto climbed toward Ashiva's lair. Below in the valley, hidden behind rocks and trees, the entire kingdom watched in terrified hope. The giant sat on his throne of bones, 30 feet of muscle and malice, his coal-fire eyes burning with cruel anticipation. When he saw the lone warrior approaching, he laughed with a sound like breaking boulders. So, little insect, you come to die for these cowering fools. I come to free them from a tyrant, Kunto replied, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Free them. I gave them order. Purpose. They live to serve me. The giant rose, towering like a living mountain. Let me give you death instead. What followed was a battle that shook the very foundations of the earth. Ashiva's massive fist smashed craters where Kunto had been standing moments before. His roar shattered stones and sent landslides cascading down the mountainside. But Kunto was no longer the frightened boy who had been driven into exile. 7 years of hardship had forged him into a weapon of justice, guided by the spirits of his ancestors. He danced between the giant's attacks, his blessed spear finding gaps in the monster's defenses. You cannot harm me, insect. Ashiva bellowed as the spear bounced off his iron skin. I am immortal. Your body may be, but your power has a source. Kunto replied, using his shield to deflect the giant's claws. Drawing upon strength that seemed to come from beyond his mortal limits, Kunto leaped impossibly high, lifted by the spirits of generations of ancestors who demanded justice. At the peak of his arc, he drew the sacred arrow and aimed for the glowing amulet barely visible within the giant's chest. Time seemed to stop. The arrow, blessed by healers and guided by righteousness, flew straight and true. It pierced Ashiva's heart. The giant's scream of agony split the morning sky. His massive form began to shrink as dark magic unraveled. In moments, the 30-foot terror was reduced to a normal-sized man, twisted by evil but mortal once more. Kwakudua, the sorcerer, looked up at Kunto with eyes full of hatred and fear. You cannot, the power was mine forever. Power built on terror always falls, Kunto said, standing over his defeated enemy. Justice may be delayed, but it never dies. The sorcerer's body crumbled to dust, ending the nightmare that had plagued Abora. The roar of celebration that rose from the valley below could be heard for miles. The giant was dead. The kingdom was free. People poured from hiding places throughout the land, weeping with joy and disbelief. King Nana Kwaku, despite his age and frailty, climbed the sacred mountain himself to embrace the kingdom's savior Kunto. My boy, he whispered, tears streaming down his weathered face. My brave, beautiful boy. Can you ever forgive an old fool who let fear cloud his judgment? There is nothing to forgive, Your Majesty, Kunto replied. Fear makes us all do things we later regret. Before the assembled multitude, King Nana Kwaku made a proclamation that echoed across the kingdom. Let all know that Kwame the healer, Oma the wise, and their son Kunto were innocent of all charges. They were victims of lies and jealousy, exiled for crimes they never committed. Today their honor is restored. Chief Ose stepped forward to make his own confession, I was the one who spread lies about this noble family. My jealousy destroyed innocence and goodness. The plague was natural, and I used the people's fear to destroy those who were better than I could ever be. When the crowd's anger turned toward Ose, Kunto raised his hand for silence. Chief Ose's confession takes courage. His betrayal forged me into the weapon our kingdom needed. I forgive him, as I hope to be forgiven for my own mistakes. Meanwhile, Akoshua was inside her hut all through this time. She couldn't bear to witness another death by the hands of the dreadful beast. She told her maids to come for her when the fight was over. She was shocked when Amina, her chief maid, brought the news that the beast has been slain. She thought in her heart that this was a plot by her maids to force her out of her shell. She refused to come out from her hut until her parents came to share the good news of victory. When she learned that Kunto was the beast slayer, she wept for joy, screaming around the palace in search of her hero. She had missed him so much and have always prayed for this reunion. She was angry when the place guards told her he left to bring back his parents from exile. She yelled at Amina for not alerting her about Kunto's heroic and keeping such secret from her, knowing how much she cared about him. She was wondering if he had already married someone else from where he lived in exile, or has his feelings for her changed over time. She asked her father if Kunto spoke about her before he left. His response wasn't what she expected. Her mother Airfi told her to take things easy. She understood that Kunto was focused on slaying their enemy. He will come back for her when he returns. Despite her encouragements, Akoshua was very worried about Kunto. I know he likes yam pottage spiced with fresh fish, she said to her maids. We will prepare the finest upon his return. I will serve him myself and hopes that will rekindle our relationship. When Kunto got home, his parents were very pleased to see him alive. They have been praying for him with a hope that he will get back alive. Their prayers have been answered. Their son is alive. My son, Kwame whispered, embracing Kunto. You have become a man of wisdom and strength. I learned from the best teachers, Papa. You taught me to heal, Mama taught me truth, and Exile taught me to fight. All these gifts were necessary. The most beautiful moment came when Kwame and Oma, summoned by royal messengers, entered the capital with their son alive and victorious. The reunion of the family and the people torn apart by lies brought tears to every eye that witnessed it. When Akoshua learned that Kunto and her parents are back, she ran out of her hut to greet them. She was shocked that Kunto was the man who visited them few days ago before the fight with the beast, and she had served him food that night. She asked him, "Are you angry with me?" Kunto smiled and said, "Why would I be angry with the most beautiful maiden in all Abora? My best friend and heartbeat." When Akoshua heard this, she leapt and kissed Kunto, and their relationship blossomed as if they never left each other's. She thanked him for saving her and the people from the beast. She invited him to her hut for a fresh meal. They talked all through the night like two lovebirds that just met for the first time. The next day, Kunto informed the king about his desires to marry his daughter, who was his childhood friend. King Nana Kwako and his wife Airfi was delighted about the news, and they arranged for a royal wedding. On the day of their wedding, it was a gracious occasion. Many people visited them from neighboring villages. Some came to celebrate with Kunto and Akoshua bearing many gifts, but others were desirous to see the man that slayed the beast that terrorized Abora. They were shocked to see a calm, handsome man. From that day onwards, Kunto was known as the hero of Abora. He was loved and hailed everywhere in the land. In the years that followed, Abora flourished as never before. Kwame and Oma resumed their roles as healers and advisors, their wisdom deepened by suffering overcome. Kunto became the kingdom's greatest protector, but more importantly, its voice of justice and mercy. When other lands faced their own giants, whether literal monsters or the demons of corruption and tyranny, they knew they could call upon Abora for aid. The sacred mountain where Ashiva had reigned became a place of pilgrimage, where people came to remember that no darkness is permanent and no evil undefeatable. Years later, when Kunto had children of his own, they would ask, "Papa, weren't you angry at those who exiled our family?" And Kunto would smile, looking toward the mountain now crowned with flowers instead of bones. Anger is a fire that burns brightest when fed by injustice, my children. But the same fire that destroys can also forge. My anger became purpose, my pain became strength, my exile became the skills needed to save our people. The ancestors knew what they were doing, even when we could not see their plan. So injustice can be good, his youngest daughter would ask. Injustice is always terrible, Kunto would reply honestly. But sometimes terrible things teach us what we could learn no other way. The boy who grew up safe and loved could never have faced Ashiva. The man forged by exile and hardship could. The sacred mountain still stands, they say, and on quiet evenings, you can hear the whispers of ancestors reminding us that no giant is too big to fall, no exile too distant to end, and no darkness too deep to overcome. For in the end, those who stand for justice, even when standing alone, are never truly alone. The ancestors stand with them, the future calls to them, and love itself gives them strength to face any monster that dares to terrorize the innocent.